Hi, this is Karen from the Huntley Area Public Library. Thanks for joining me for today's Teen Crafternoon. Today we're going to be making stone cacti. So I'm going to show you some examples of that, and then we'll gather up our supplies and start making those. Before I get into what supplies we're going to need for this project, I just wanted to show you some pictures of other people's stone cacti so you have an idea of what we're going to be working with. I recommend that you gather some ideas, maybe from looking at actual cacti, if you have any in your house, or you can look at pictures online, just for some ideas about how you want to decorate your stones and what size stones and how many and so on and so forth, shape stones that you want to have. So here are some that I found. So you're going to need some kind of rocks that resemble the leaves or sections of your cactus, and that might be the most challenging part for you to find them. I had some rocks that were left over from a fish tank that I used a long time ago, so an aquarium setup. So I used some of those. But you can see there's all kinds of different shapes. Like there's big round ones that could be flat, and if you want to make little stone flowers for the tops too, like they're blooming, that would be cool. There's like some saguaro ones where you need longer oblong ones of different kinds, and then this one is like a prickly pear sort of cactus. Haha, look at me rattling off these names like I know what I'm talking about. So you could, if you have like a glue gun or some other kind of glue, you can stick different rocks together after you've done the painting. So you'll want to choose some stones. You're going to need some kind of pot or bowl to put them in. There's some other, this is just like a whole bunch of different rocks and painted in all kinds of different ways. A lot of cactuses are green, so you'll want to have some different green paints, or one or two greens and some black and white colors that you can mix in with that. Maybe some yellow too to get a nice yellowy green. Here's some more just stones that are painted like different cactus segments. Here's like a rosette sort of succulent maybe. So that would require a big round rock. Here's some other ideas about designs for your cactus segments. Those are a little bit more artistic, maybe a little bit less realistic, but they look cool too. And then here's some other ones. This one looks like a little pin cushion, more with flowers. They look pretty realistic. And with the stone cacti, you don't have to worry about watering them or making sure that they get enough sunlight, so that's always a good thing if you're not good at taking care of houseplants. This one looks like they used fake flowers. They didn't use stones, they just attached some like silk flowers or cloth flowers onto their cactuses. And here's one more where they painted some of the flowers on there instead of using actual stones or flowers. So those are all some ideas that you can use. Then a container, you'll need some kind of substrate for your rocks to rest in, and that could be actual soil if you want to use that. That's usually pretty easy to find. Or there's like different kinds of gravel you could use. You could use smaller stones. I have some sand that I'm going to be using, so here's my sand. And I may or may not use this container. This is pretty small, so we'll see if I have a bunch of rocks that I painted already, so I might use something larger, or I can make several different small ones. Here's a larger plastic container. I like the look of the terracotta, and those are a little bit heavier too, so that might be a possibility as well. So after you've done your research and you've gotten some stones and you've collected a container to put them in, and you have some kind of substrate for those to rest in, you're going to want to get some paint. I'm going to be using acrylic paint in different greens. So I have a darker green, kind of an apple green here. These are glossy paints, so if you use a glossy paint and you like the look of that, you can just, like this is one of the glossy stones that I painted before. You can add your leaf accents in white or some other color, and then you can probably just leave them as is. If you would like your rocks to be glossy and you don't have a glossy paint, then I recommend after your paint dries to paint over them with Mod Podge or something like that. That will help seal them up and will make them shiny if you get the glossy Mod Podge. You're going to need brushes and water for your painting job. Here are some unpainted rocks that I collected and that other people found for me. So I'll choose some of the most cactus looking ones to demo for you. And that should get us started. Gather your supplies, my friends. Okay, so let's get started painting our rocks. I've got some water over here so I can rinse my brush out. And I'm going to start with this darker green paint. Be sure to protect your surface that you're working on so that you don't damage it. And protect your brushes too by cleaning them off when you are and putting them in some water when you're not using them. I'm just getting my brush a little bit damp. And the paint's all the way at the bottom of that one. And I'm just going to put a coat of this green paint on here. You will want to paint both sides of your rock. You might not have to paint the very bottom, like where you're holding it, if you don't want to, if that's the part that's going to get buried in the substrate that this gets set in after we're done. I'm just going to do the whole thing because I'm not sure how I want these rocks to set up in there. So you'll paint the top and then bottom. I'm going to let the tops dry before I paint the bottom so they don't stick to anything. And these can be as elaborate or simple as you want them to be. So your painting can be very intricate and detailed, and you can use lots of rocks if you want a big cactus or several different types of cacti, or you can just do one rock and have a tiny container for it. Looks like I can reach a little bit more on here, a little bit more there. They might need a couple of coats depending on how much coverage you're getting with the paint. Sometimes it sinks in, sometimes it spreads out really thin. I had one container of paint that was super watery for whatever reason, and that made the paint a whole lot thinner, so I had to put on several layers before it would cover completely. I'm going to shake this up. So this is, it's a holiday green. It's not quite as dark as the other green. This one already looks like it's a little bit thinner and actually coating the rock here. So that will definitely need another coat or two. And it will probably take about 15-20 minutes for it to dry. So you're going to have a little downtime where you can prep other parts of your project, or maybe you have lots of other rocks to paint, and by the time you're finished painting them all, you can start over from the beginning with the first one because it'll be dry. That is a possibility. Okay, so I'm going to put, whoops, I have a little more space here where I can paint the rocks. So I read somewhere recently in like a gardening book or one of the posts from my gardening club that if you put red rocks out, like red painted rocks out by your strawberry plants right when they start to produce fruit that squirrels and chipmunks and birds will like try and eat those first, and by the time your strawberry plant has fruit, they'll be like, oh, we don't want to eat those are too hard, they're not good. So I put a bunch of painted rocks, red painted rocks, up at my strawberry plants, but I was too late. My strawberry plants had produced sort of like the fruit right before it gets ripe. It had like a lot of little white berries on it, and those either dried up because it was super dry out, or the squirrels and birds got to them before they were even ripe because they were so hungry or thirsty. So my red rock experiment failed. Maybe some year when there are actual berries on the strawberry plants, I can test that out even better. Okay, let your rocks dry and we'll be back in just a moment. Alright, you might have noticed that I have a lot more rocks than I did before, and that none of them look like the rocks that I just showed you in our painting process. So I'm doing that thing like they have on cooking shows where I have already prepared some rocks in advance, although they are not cooking rocks on cooking shows, so pretend these are a nice baked lasagna. So I'm going to come out holding the finished lasagna and say, and here's one I put in the oven 45 minutes ago, so we can try it right now. And you can trust me that it's the exact same process. So here are the rocks that I painted before. They're all dried and covered completely in paint, multiple coats of paint. You can tell which ones are the glossy paints and which ones are the not so glossy paints like these. And now I'm gonna do some decoration of those to get those cactus details. For that, I'm going to use a finer brush. So if you have a brush that's a little bit smaller, that'll be good for working in details. You could also use like a paint pen if you get real fiddly with your details. That would work too. I need to get a smaller container of white. It's kind of a problem to have to reach down that far. So I think for one of these, at least, I'm going to do some rows of dots. So we'll say that this is the top of the cactus leaf and that this is the bottom that's going to get buried, I think. And I'm going to do some rows of dots. If you don't have a super steady hand, don't hold these up while you do it. You can put it down on the table or whatever surface you're working on, which I'm going to do now. I'll get some of these other guys out of the way. And you're going to want to paint both sides with whatever design you choose to use. If you're worried about not going in a straight line too, you can also draw a line on there in pencil first if you want to. I'm okay with it being a little bit off as I go. It won't be totally perfect. So that's one side of that one. And let's see. So I've got white out. I'm going to do some just random sort of polka dots on another one. Let's do that on, we'll do this one. So I'll put that one down and load up my paintbrush again. And we'll just do some dots. If your hand is unsteady, you can support one wrist that you're painting with your other hand, and then that will give you some more stability, so it looks like that when you're painting. Mine will be a little bit off camera, and I want some of these to be offset, so I'm putting my polka dots in between the space of the other polka dots. So that's another one. And then another design I wanted to try was kind of long stripes with little spines coming out of them. So let's see. Let's do that on this one. move you over to the side. Let's get both of those out of the way. And we'll do that side. So. Stripes. And you can let your stripes dry first if you want to, before you add the spikes to them, or you can put them on now. These are kind of thicker than I was gonna do. That's okay. I think I'm gonna make the stripes a little greener too. So I'm going to grab a lighter color paint here. Here's a light green. And I'm going to use a little bit of that. I'm cleaning my white paint off the little brush. And I'm going to use this appley green to stripe over my white for some variation. And then I'll come over in the, oh boy, I'll come over with the white again and do the spikes. Now it's really quite different than what I was intending. So just like Bob Ross says, lots of art is happy accidents. So we'll work with that. Let me do one more. And then I'll let you decorate yours. Well, you can be decorating now too. But I'll do one more white. We'll see if I can get the little spiky bits going on. I think I need, I might need something bigger to work with. So let's see. Just thin stripes here. The thin stripe that's giving me the challenge. Oh my goodness. Feel free to paint over your stripes if they are not behaving, or work them into something else. All right, and I want them to kind of look like little stars. My spiky spiny bits. So just drawing little star arms, spines. Could be flowers, who knows? And it might, like I said before, work a little bit better to let the lines dry first and then try and add the little spiky bits. But I will come back over with some other paint later, maybe another color, and clean this up a little bit. But this is the basic idea. Your mileage may vary. Okay. So we'll let those dry. I'm going to paint some of my other stones here and then let those dry, and then we'll come back and take a look at everything. All right, we're back and everything is pretty much dry. I painted both sides, and then I also did some Mod Podge over the paint just so everything would be the same kind of shiny. And now it's time to set my little cacti in their planter. So here's my little planter with the sand, and This one's maybe big enough for 3 cactus pieces. So there's 1 and 2. We could maybe get more in there. We'll see. 3. That looks pretty good though. So that's what that looks like. I hope yours turned out really nice too. I'm happy with this. And I don't have to water it. Hooray! Or forget about watering it. I hope your cacti turned out really great. Thanks for joining me today for Teen Crafternoon. For more fun ideas, you can check out our website, www.huntleylibrary.org, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all of our videos. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.